Alright, and hello everyone, it is me, Jay Burns, and in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make this bracelet right here. This bracelet is hopefully my own original design, and it is the Draw the Line bracelet. And, well, if you've been following my Instagram since on 100 followers, so this channel's Instagram, you would have seen this little flipogram video, which shows you how to make the bracelet, and also have instructions and stuff. And yeah, if you want to check out this channel's Instagram for more little flipgrams and stuff, then the link to the Instagram will be in the description. And then here's just the bracelet I made in the flipogram. And then here's another bracelet that I made on the monster tail. And I will be making a tutorial for this bracelet on a monster tail, or just like a loom, in the future, and I'll have a link to that tutorial if you're not good at hook only stuff in the description. Alright, so to make the Draw the Line bracelet, you're going to need just a hook for this tutorial. If you want to make this on a loom, link to that tutorial in the description. You're going to need a clip. Any clip should work as long as it is for rubber band bracelets. I'll be using a C-clip. You will also need rubber bands. There are two different groups. I'll explain what they are. The A group, or the A rubber bands, they are going to be the fishtail, so the little bracelet, the fishtail here in the bracelet, and it's just white in this example. Then the B rubber bands are going to be the line rubber bands, and they're going to be what all these little different color bands are. So the red, pink, and yellow, and the green, blue, black. That's what your B color bands are going to be. Now, to figure out how many bands you're going to need for this bracelet, you will need to know about how many bands you'll need to make yourself a fishtail. And then you can just use that to figure out how many bands you'll need for the rest of the bracelet. So, yeah. Also, before we begin, you'll need to know how to make a fishtail with your hook. You will actually need to know how, because I will be just saying, like, go ahead and do a fishtail stitch, and I won't be explaining it. So if you need to know how to make a fishtail with just your hook, I do have a tutorial, and it'll be down in the description as well. So a lot of tutorials down there. And yeah, so this might be a little bit more of an advanced tutorial. I won't be explaining way too much, but anyway, to figure out, or go ahead and get these supplies that you're going to need. Use the pause button if you need to, and we'll just go ahead and get started. Alright, so to begin, we're going to start making the fishtail. So we're going to get 3 A color rubber bands to start. First, we're going to take one of our A color bands and our hook. We're going to make this A color band here a cap band. And to do that, you're just going to put the rubber band on your hook, twist it, and this new shape that you create, you're going to put it onto your hook as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 more A color rubber bands, put them on our hook like so, slide the cap band onto the 2 new bands, and when you put the other end of these new rubber bands onto your hook, make sure one rubber band is just in the middle, and then there's another rubber band that's just like on the outside. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our first B color bands, which are the line bands. And we're going to get 3 of them. So 3 B color bands. And what we're going to do is we're going to get them on our hook so that they're in the center in between the A color bands on your hook. So they're going to be like right here in this little space. So to do this, what I like to do is just put the B color bands on my hook like so. Then take these 2 little A color bands right here, just pull them off like that. Scoot these bands more towards the middle of your hook, like that. And then take these A color bands and put them back on your hook. Keep it like this here. And then pull these B color bands like through them like this. kind of hard to explain a little bit, but anyway. So now you should have something like this here on your hook. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add 5 more A-color bands. So we're going to do the fishtail stitch going through, we're going to do the fishtail stitch 5 times. So we're going to get 5 more A-color bands. And so what you do, I'll show you what you do with this B-color band. You just take these A-color rubber bands, or this A-color rubber band, just one, and you just go ahead and do a fishtail stitch. You're also going to want to pull the B-color bands through and onto that band as well. And when you're going to do your fishtail stitch, make sure you grab the right rubber band. And you're still going to go through this B-color, or these B-color rubber bands that you're adding. So make sure they still end up like right here. Make sure they should still be sticking up in here in the middle. And then we're just going to do that 4 more times. We're going to get another A-color rubber band, put it on our hook, do the fishtail stitch, make sure those B-color bands get back or stay in the center on your hook. Just make sure that you kind of stay like this here. And now we're just going to do it 3 more times. We're going to take another A-color band, do the fishtail stitch. Oops. And do the fishtail stitch. Make sure that you keep those B-color bands kind of in the center there. Right, and now we're just going to do this 2 more times. So just go ahead and do that. Add 2 more A-color bands. Continue the fishtail stitch. If you need to move the B-color bands around so you can see what you're doing, then you can do that, of course. Just make sure they end up back in the middle and on your hook like this. So, once you've added those 5 other A-color bands, what we're going to do now is we're going to get 3 more B-color bands. And now the pattern for making this bracelet is going to start. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take these 3 B-color bands, so these new ones, and we're going to add them the exact same way we added the first 3. Just going to take these 2 little A-color loops here, just pull them off and over like that. Kind of move these towards the middle of your hook and then put these back on. And pull these through. And there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 more A-color rubber bands. And, well, the first one, what we're going to do with it is we're just going to, now we're just going to have, or we're going to do the fishtail stitch, but we're going to have a lot more B-color bands to deal with. So we're just going to pull these all through here. Do the fishtail stitch. And make sure you get these 3 B-color bands that you added the first time. Make sure those get back on your hook. You might have to take your hook and go underneath of them. And then you still need to do the fishtail stitch. So make sure all your B-color bands still end up here in the middle. Now what you're going to do with this second B-color or A-color rubber band is pretty much the same thing. You're still going to do that fishtail stitch, but instead of going back underneath the 3 B-color bands from before, you're just going to do the fishtail stitch and completely ignore the 3 older B-color bands. So you just have the newer ones back on your hook. And still do that fishtail stitch. So now, the older 3 B-color bands from before, now they're kind of like underneath your hook, they're not on your hook anymore, and just the newer 3 that you added are here in the center now. Alright. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to add 3 more A-color rubber bands. we're going to continue the fishtail stitch, going through these 3 new B color bands. So just like before. So here's 1. Here's 2. And then here's a 3rd one. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 more B color rubber bands. So if you're using 2 different colors for your B color bands, you're going to get the color you used the first time, which is these blue lagoon bands for me. And we're going to do something similar to what we did before when we added new B color bands, but it's going to be just slightly different, but it's still going to be important. So you're going to still take your B color bands, put them on your hook, make sure you have 3. You're going to add them pretty much the same way. You're going to take these 2 little A color bands here, pull them off and over, but you're also going to take these 3 B color rubber bands that you had added before. You're going to take those 3 and also pull them off and over like, oh gosh, like this. Okay, but make sure they don't fall off. But then we're going to kind of move these bands towards away from here. Just going to do it like this. Then put everything back on, except for that. So we're going to put everything you just put on these new B color bands, you're going to put those back on. Then pull these B color bands through there, through like that. And now what should happen is you should have these 3 B color rubber bands that you just now added. Now they should be further away from the actual part of your hook than the other 3 you had before. So as you can see here, these blue lagoon bands are farther away from the actual part of your hook than these other 3 B color rubber bands, which are the zebra stripe bands. So your older bands should be closer to the actual part of your hook, and the newer bands should be farther away. Alright, so now we're going to do the same thing we did before when we added new B color bands. We're going to get 2 more A color rubber bands. We're going to take 1, and we're going to pull it going through all these bands here. Just going to do a regular fishtail stitch. And make sure you keep the B color bands, oops, went off camera. Make sure you keep the B color bands kind of in the middle of your hook, and also make sure you pick up the older 3 B color bands. So you might need to slide your hook underneath of them. You're going to add this A color band doing a fishtail stitch. And then you're going to get your second A color rubber band. And what we're going to do with it is we're still going to do a fishtail stitch, but we're not going to pick up the older 3 B color bands. So we're just going to kind of just skip over them and just continue the fishtail stitch. So we should just have our newer ones, and then the older B color bands should be underneath of our hook like this. So hopefully that wasn't confusing or anything. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to get 3 more A color rubber bands. I'm trying to make sure I'm not messing this up. Okay. Yeah, we're going to add 3 more A color rubber bands. So we're going to continue the fishtail stitch. We're just going to pull them going through these new B color bands. And make sure the B color bands stay here, like in the middle of the hook, or between these bands here. Just continue that fishtail stitch. Alright, there we go. Okay, something's going on with these rubber bands. Keep going out of order. Alright, there we go. And that is the pattern for adding rubber bands and continuing your bracelet. So, I'm going to go ahead through and show you the pattern one more time, and then I'm going to leave you to continue making the rest of the bracelet on your own. I'm actually going to show you how to close off the bracelet after I show you, but anyway, I'm going to show you how you the pattern one more time, and then you're on your own. So, the pattern for making this bracelet is we're going to get 3 B-color bands. So we start by adding 3 new B-color bands. What we're going to do is we're going to put them on our hook like so. We're going to get them in the center, so in between all these A-color bands here. And the way I do that is I take just these 2 A-color bands, just pull them off and over. So this time we do not do anything with these other B-color bands, just the A-color bands. We get them in the center like that. Pull these up and over. Pull them back on. And pull these through there. Alright, now all of your B-color bands should be in the center, and these new ones you added should be closer to the actual part of your hook than your older ones. Now we're going to get 2 more A-color rubber bands. We're going to take one, and we're just going to pull it through all these bands here. We're going to do the fishtail stitch. Oops. It's a little bit difficult to do this. Right, there we go. And just make sure that you also pick up the older 3 B-color bands, which are these Blue Lagoon ones, for me. Once again, what is with these bands getting out of order? There we go. Still continuing that fishtail stitch there. And everything getting out of order again. Seriously? Okay, anyway, then you're going to get your second A-color rubber band, and you're going to do the fishtail stitch again, but we're not going to pick up the older 3 B-color bands. We're just going to just skip over them. So just skip over those older 3 B-color bands and just pick up the newer ones. But we're still continuing that fishtail stitch. And there you go. So now the older B-color bands should be underneath. Now we're going to do the 3, oh my goodness. We're going to do the fishtail stitch 3 more times. So get 3 more A-color rubber bands. And they're all going to be going through the new B-color bands. There's one. There's 2. And there's 3. Alright. And once you've added those 3 fishtail A-color bands, now we're going to add 3 more B-color rubber bands. So what we do to add these is we put them on our hook just like so. And we're going to get them here in between these A color bands and further away from the actual hook part of your hook. Can't talk today for some reason. So to do that, we just take these two little A color bands here, take them off and over, and then we're also going to take these three B color rubber bands that were already on your hook, and we're going to pull them onto these A color bands or these new B color bands as well. Alright, I'm just going to get these in the center, and then everything we just put on there, we're just going to put them back on our hook, and we'll pull these other B color bands, so these new B color bands just through, and now they should be farther away from the actual part of your hook than the older three B color bands that you have there. Now we're going to get two more A color rubber bands. It's just going to be just like before. We're going to take one of the A color rubber bands, do a regular fishtail stitch, and make sure you also pick up those older three B color bands. So you might need to slide your hook underneath of them. And then continue the fishtail. Then you're going to get the second A color rubber band. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing, except we're just going to skip over those older three B color bands. So we're going to still do the fishtail stitch. Just put the newer three B color bands on your hook and skip over the older ones. The older B color bands. So now you should have three B color bands from before kind of underneath your hook and not on your hook like these new ones. And then we're just going to add three more A color rubber bands to the fishtail. So we're just going to do a fishtail stitch three more times, going through the new B color bands. So here's two. And here is three. And then the pattern starts over. Then you get three more B color rubber bands and you add them, and they're going to be closer to the actual part of your hook. Do some fishtail stitching, you drop these three older B color bands, and you do some more fishtail stitching, and you add three more B color bands, and they end up being farther away from the actual hook part of your hook. And do a couple fishtail stitches, get rid of the older B color bands, and then do some more fishtail stitches, and then the pattern starts over. So now you're just going to continue this pattern over and over until you make your bracelet long enough to fit around your wrist, or until you run out of rubber bands if you got the exact number that you will need. And yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to finish off your bracelet. Alright, so to finish off your bracelet, you're just going to need, I'm trying to figure out if I need 2 or 3. Okay, so you're going to need 2 more A color rubber bands, and you're going to want to be somewhere that looks like this here. So you just have 3 B color bands on your hook, and you've already pulled 3 more A color bands through it. So you're basically, yeah, so you've just added your B color bands and you've done 3 fishtail stitches going through it. So this is somewhere you're going to want to be. And we're just going to take 2 more A color bands. We're going to take one and we're going to put it on our hook. We're going to do a fishtail stitch going through it. And you might need to pick the B color bands up. Then you're going to get this last B color band. You're just going to pull it going through all these bands here. And you're not going to pick anything up. Instead of doing a fishtail stitch, you're just going to put the other end of the new rubber band onto your hook. Completely just ignoring the fishtail stitch thing. It's just pulling a band through everything. Then, after that, you'll want to get your clip and you'll attach it to this last band, this band here that's on your hook. So there should only be one there. And once your clip is on the hook, or not on your hook, but on the last band here, you can take the rubber band off of your hook and you don't need it anymore. Now what you're going to do is attach this clip to the cap band on the other end of your bracelet, which is kind of this circular rubber band and sometimes ends up looking like this. And you're just going to take your clip and attach it to that cap band on the other end. And then, bam, you have your bracelet. Well, except for me, I have like a ring or something, but anyway, I guess now it is time for the outro. So, I would like to thank you for watching my tutorial. Hopefully it showed you how to make the draw the line bracelet successfully. And if you aren't having much success with making it with just a hook, I do have a monster tail tutorial / loom tutorial that you can go and watch, and it'll be linked down in the description. And yeah, also check out this channel's Instagram for more flipograms and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial. That's all I gotta say for this video, other than thanks for watching and bye.